Are you feeling lost in the silence, wondering if your prayers are being heard or if the waiting will ever end? In today's video, we dive into some of the most powerful lessons from Mere Christianity by C.S.Lewis and Scripture itself to remind you that God's timing is never late and His plans are far greater than we can imagine. We'll explore why delays aren't denials, how patience shapes your faith, and how God is silently working behind the scenes to transform your life. If you're tired, frustrated, or questioning why things aren't moving fast enough, stay with us until the end, because you're about to discover how waiting can lead to miracles beyond your wildest dreams. Watch to the end and let your heart be reassured that your breakthrough is closer than you think. Before we start, I'd appreciate your support. If you liked the video, please subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated on future lessons from God. In the profound and life-affirming words of Matthew 11, verse 28, Jesus beckons us with open arms, extending a heartfelt invitation that resonates deeply within our weary souls. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. This invitation is not just a call, it is a divine embrace, a promise of solace in the storm. In those moments when life's trials become overwhelming and the shadows of despair threaten to engulf us, it can be incredibly challenging to perceive even the faintest glimmer of hope. The crushing weight of our burdens often leads us into a vortex of loneliness and confusion, where it feels as though we are adrift in a vast, tumultuous sea, desperately seeking land, but finding only waves of anguish crashing around us. C.S. Lewis, in his illuminating work Mere Christianity, poignantly reminds us that our reliance on God is not a one-time act, but a daily renewal, akin to awakening each morning with a fresh commitment to faith and trust. Even amidst the darkest valleys of our existence, where hope seems like a distant memory, it is imperative to cling to a powerful and unwavering truth. God sees every ounce of your pain, and He hears the heartfelt cries that escape your lips. He is not a distant deity, unconcerned with the trials of humanity. Rather, He is a compassionate Father, intimately aware of our struggles and deeply invested in our healing. His divine purpose will forever prevail, and His timing is a masterpiece of perfection, an exquisite tapestry woven with threads of love, grace, and mercy. Embrace the comfort of trusting in His celestial plan, for Lamentations 3 verses 25 to 26 reassures us, saying, "The Lord is good to those whose hope is in Him, to the one who seeks Him." It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. In these verses, we find a sanctuary for our weary hearts, a reminder that waiting is not an exercise in futility, but a sacred practice of patience, surrender, and trust. In moments of doubt, when your heart feels heavy with condemnation and your spirit is laden with guilt, 1 John 3 verse 20 boldly declares, "Even when our hearts condemn us, God is greater than our hearts, and He knows everything." This verse serves as a radiant beacon of hope, illuminating the darkness of self-doubt with the brilliance of God's unfathomable love and understanding. So, before you allow despair to creep in and snuff out your hope, take a moment to remember the sovereignty of God. He is Jehovah Nissi, our banner, raising us in triumph even when we feel defeated. Jehovah Shalom, the embodiment of peace that surpasses all understanding, enveloping us in His tranquility amidst chaos. And He is Emmanuel, God with us, steadfastly present even in our moments of utter exhaustion and despair. In this divine presence, we find the strength to carry on, the resilience to endure, and the hope to believe that brighter days are ahead. Do not surrender to hopelessness. Be patient and trust in the divine timing orchestrated by your Heavenly Father. Your blessings are not just on the horizon. They are already en route to you, woven into the very fabric of His perfect plan. Just as the dawn follows the darkest night, so too will your season of waiting to give way to the radiant light of His promises fulfilled. Today, I invite you to embark on a transformative journey exploring essential biblical teachings on the art of waiting upon God. One of the most formidable challenges we face as Christians is cultivating the patience required while we await His answers. In a world that often demands immediate gratification, the waiting game can feel like an insurmountable hurdle, testing our faith and resolve. As C.S.Lewis insightfully notes, I'm sure that God keeps no one waiting unless He sees that it is good for them to wait. Indeed, every believer encounters seasons of waiting, where it appears as though nothing is shifting or changing. It is entirely natural to grapple with questions regarding why God seems to delay His response. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yet, let this truth resonate within you. His timing is nothing short of flawless. Isaiah 46 verse 10 eloquently expresses this divine assurance. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. In this profound declaration, we are reminded that God operates beyond the confines of our human understanding of time. He orchestrates events with precision and purpose, calling forth not only the birds of the air, but also our hearts and lives to fulfill His divine will. He even calls forth a bird of prey from the east, summoning a man for His purpose from a distant land, illustrating His ability to work all things together for good. This recurring theme throughout the Bible serves as a powerful reminder of His sovereignty and meticulous attention to detail in our lives. As we delve deeper into this exploration of waiting on God, may our hearts be stirred with renewed hope and unwavering faith, knowing that His promises are true and His love is boundless. May we learn to embrace the waiting, recognizing it as an integral part of our spiritual growth, a time when our faith is strengthened, our character is refined, and our trust in Him deepens. Each moment of anticipation brings us closer to the beautiful unfolding of His plan, revealing His glory in our lives and encouraging us to share our testimonies of faith with others. One of the most daunting and arduous challenges in life is waiting, particularly when it comes to waiting on God. Many of us can profoundly relate to this emotionally charged feeling of anticipation and uncertainty. You may find yourself pouring out your soul in fervent prayer, yearning for a response and wondering, God, why is it taking so long? Are you listening to me? In those harrowing moments when you feel forgotten, lost in the shadows of despair, or when you question whether God truly cares about your plight, it is crucial to hold on tightly to the promises and truths found in Scripture. You might be praying earnestly for relief from chronic pain that seems to linger without end, for a loved one's heart to undergo a transformative change, for divine guidance in securing a stable and fulfilling job, for healing from deep emotional wounds that threaten to engulf you, for the restoration of broken relationships that once brought you joy, or for the chance to find a life partner who will walk alongside you in love and companionship. In these desperate pleas, Jeremiah 33 verse 3 offers a powerful reassurance, declaring, "Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." This promise invites us into a profound relationship with God, reminding us that He is both willing and able to respond in ways that exceed our understanding. Yet, waiting for answers can be incredibly challenging and disheartening. especially when it seems like your heartfelt prayers go unanswered, suspended in the silence of the heavens. During these trying times, it is easy to feel disillusioned and doubt the efficacy of your prayers. However, patience is a virtue that nurtures our faith and cultivates our character. The more fervently you pray and cry out to God, the more it may feel as though there is no response. It can feel as if your hopes are being dashed against the rocks of disappointment. But remember, God's timing is perfect. Even when it appears delayed, trust that He hears you and believe that His plans for you are ultimately good. Even if the path to fulfillment is longer and more winding than you had hoped or imagined. In the depths of your soul, you cling to faith, believing with every ounce of your being that God is with you. Yet, there may be moments when there is no clear sign from God, no indication that He has heard your cries, and no evidence that He is working behind the scenes on your behalf. All you long for is a sign, any sign, to illuminate the darkness that surrounds you. You might find yourself praying, "Lord, show me something, anything." And yet sometimes the response is nothing but an echoing silence that can feel unbearable. So, what is God doing in these moments of stillness? Why does He seem so quiet? To find solace in our waiting, let's remember the compelling story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. Joseph endured years of hardship, betrayal by his brothers, slavery, and unjust imprisonment. His journey was fraught with trials that tested his faith and resilience. Yet, through every painful experience, God remained with him, orchestrating every detail of his life for a greater purpose. In Genesis 50 verse 20, Joseph reassures his brothers after they had wronged him, saying, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." This powerful declaration illustrates that God's timing is exquisite, even when it appears shrouded in mystery. You may currently feel like you're stuck in a pit or a prison, waiting for deliverance from your struggles. But remember, just because God seems silent doesn't mean He isn't present. He is intricately working behind the scenes, weaving together the threads of your life with His goodness, power, provision, and grace, constantly at work for your benefit, driven by His profound and abiding love for you. As a loving Father, God has wonderful plans for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. He desires to see you flourish in ways that align with His divine will. In times of waiting, we are invited to cultivate a deeper relationship with God, trusting that He is in control and that every moment of our waiting serves a purpose. The silence we experience is not abandonment. Rather, it is an opportunity for growth, reflection, and transformation. Each day that passes is a step closer to the fulfillment of His promises. The process of waiting can refine our character, deepen our trust, and strengthen our resolve. It is in these moments that we learn to rely on Him fully, to surrender our timelines to His perfect plan, and to find peace amidst uncertainty. As we navigate the often rocky terrain of waiting on God, let us draw strength from His Word, engage in prayerful reflection, and surround ourselves with a community of believers who can encourage us in our journey. Together, we can support one another through the waiting, reminding each other of the faithfulness of our God and the hope that springs eternal in His promises. Trust in His process, for in due time, the seeds of your prayers will blossom into the beautiful answers you have been yearning for. Embrace the waiting, knowing that it is a sacred space where God works mightily to prepare you for the blessings that lie ahead. Today, we embark on a profound journey to explore key principles about waiting patiently on God, opening our hearts and minds to fully embrace these transformative truths. One of the fundamental principles we must internalize is that God's delays are not His denials. C.S.Lewis beautifully articulates this sentiment in Mere Christianity, stating, "I am sure that God keeps no one waiting unless he sees that it is good for them to wait." This wisdom reminds us that receiving what we ask for may lead to something far better or something entirely different than we could have anticipated. What we often perceive as a delay in our prayers is merely the first step toward the right direction, the beginning of a divine orchestration that unfolds in his perfect timing. In a world that prizes instant results and quick fixes, waiting can often feel like a frustrating waste of time. Our fast-paced society bombards us with the notion that efficiency and immediacy are paramount. We demand quick outcomes from technology, our schedules filled to the brim with urgent tasks, and our time perceived as precious and limited. In such a climate, the act of waiting can trigger a cascade of anxiety and doubt. We may start to question if something is inherently wrong within us or in our circumstances because waiting stands in stark contrast to our culture of instant gratification. It is undeniably challenging to remain steadfast when uncertainty looms over us like a dark cloud, casting shadows on our hopes and dreams. When we are unsure of the outcome, doubt begins to creep in, gnawing at the edges of our faith, and we start to wonder if God will truly come through for us. As this doubt takes root in our hearts, the temptation to take control of our circumstances increases, beckoning us to act out of desperation rather than faith. But here lies the danger. When we attempt to take control during the waiting period, things can quickly spiral out of alignment. Scripture provides us with vital warnings about the perils of self-reliance. We see this truth echoed in Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, which advises us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight." These verses remind us that our understanding is limited, and while we may feel the urge to manage situations on our own, such actions can lead to complications that stray us further from God's intended path. However, when we find ourselves in a prolonged season of waiting, when our prayers seem unanswered and time stretches on endlessly, we become increasingly susceptible to the temptation to take matters into our own hands. Perhaps you are at this very point of desperation today. You have waited, prayed earnestly, and placed your trust in God, yet nothing seems to change. The silence can feel deafening, and the weight of your circumstances may seem unbearable. In these moments, doubt whispers insidiously in your ear, asking, "What if?" The haunting questions that can lead you to second-guess your faith. It can feel as if you were standing at a crossroads, contemplating whether to abandon your trust in God altogether or to leave your faith behind because he did not meet your expectations. Yet, in these moments of turmoil and uncertainty, it is crucial to remember the truth that God is actively at work, even in silence. His love for you is unwavering, and his plans are intricately woven into the fabric of your life. Waiting is not an indication of abandonment. Rather, it is a sacred space where God molds and shapes us for greater purposes. It is during these times of waiting that he is refining our character, deepening our faith, and preparing us for the blessings that lie ahead. When we surrender our need for immediate answers and trust in his divine timing, we align ourselves with his will. Instead of succumbing to the urge to control our circumstances, let us choose to rest in the assurance that God knows what is best for us. He is not a distant observer, but an ever-present help in our time of need, guiding us through the valleys of doubt and uncertainty. In the waiting, we can cultivate patience, foster resilience, and deepen our relationship with him. Let us open our hearts to the beautiful truth that waiting is not a wasted experience, but a transformative journey. May we learn to trust that God's delays are often his divine strategy to prepare us for something greater than we can envision. As we navigate this landscape of waiting, may we find comfort in His promises and strength in our faith, knowing that our loving Father is working tirelessly for our good, even when we cannot see it. In moments of despair, let us not abandon our faith, but instead cling to the hope that springs eternal, trusting that God's perfect timing will unveil the blessings we have longed for. But let me ask you this: how long will you wait on God before you decide to leave Him? How long before you choose to end your relationship with the Creator because He did not deliver on your terms or within your time frame? This question invites profound introspection. Remember, God operates on His timeline, one that transcends our limited human understanding. So, while waiting, when the minutes into hours and the hours into days, resist the overwhelming temptation to take control. Trust in God's perfect timing, even when it seems like time is running out. Maintain your faith, hold on to hope, and remember that God is always at work, even during those daunting periods of waiting. Reflect on the poignant story of Lazarus in the Gospel of John, chapter 11. Mary and Martha, Lazarus's devoted sisters, sent a desperate message to Jesus, informing Him that their beloved brother was gravely ill, fully expecting Him to rush to their aid and heal him. However, to their dismay, Jesus delayed His visit. Tragedy struck when Lazarus succumbed to his illness and died. When Jesus finally arrived at their home, Mary and Martha were enveloped in grief, their hearts heavy with sorrow, and they questioned Him with tears streaming down their faces. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Their words echoed their profound disappointment and confusion. Yet, in this seemingly devastating moment, Jesus demonstrated that God's delays are not denials. In a breathtaking display of divine authority and compassion, He performed the miraculous resurrection of Lazarus, showcasing His ultimate power over death and His ability to bring forth unimaginable outcomes from despair. This powerful act not only restored Lazarus to life, but also revealed the profound truth that God's timing, though sometimes perplexing to us, is always perfect. Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9 echoes this sentiment, reminding us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." This passage highlights the vast chasm between God's understanding and our own, reminding us that His plans extend far beyond the horizon of our perception. What might seem like a delay or an unanswered prayer to us is often a crucial part of a grander divine plan that we may not fully grasp. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Trust in the profound truth that God's timing is flawless and that He is diligently working all things together for your good, even when you cannot see it. "My ways," declares the Lord, "are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God's perspective surpasses our understanding, allowing Him to see the bigger picture that encompasses our lives. He knows what is truly best for us, even when our hearts ache with longing or disappointment. So, when we encounter delays that test our patience, let us not lose heart. Instead, let us place our trust in God's infinite wisdom and impeccable timing. Let us have faith that He is orchestrating every event for our benefit, even when His hand is not visible to us. God's delays are not rejections. They are opportunities, divine invitations, for us to deepen our faith and witness His miraculous power unfolding in our lives. It is in these waiting seasons that we learn to lean more heavily on Him, to seek His presence with fervor, and to trust in His loving guidance. As we navigate the uncertainties and trials of life, May we remember that God's silence is not a sign of abandonment, but rather a testament to his intricate work in our hearts and circumstances. As we wait, let us cultivate a spirit of expectation, eagerly anticipating how God will move, knowing that his plans are not only good but far beyond anything we could ever envision. Let us hold tightly to hope and confidently declare that, though we may wait in uncertainty, our God is at work, and in his perfect time, he will reveal the marvelous answers we have been praying for. In the tapestry of our lives, every thread, every delay, and every moment of waiting is woven together with purpose, ultimately leading us closer to the fulfillment of his promises. A second principle we must embrace on our journey of faith is that patience is indeed a virtue, a profound and transformative quality that enriches our spiritual lives. C.S.Lewis eloquently articulates this truth in Mere Christianity, stating, "The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the unpleasant things as interruptions of one's own real life." The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions is precisely one's real life. This powerful observation invites us to reflect deeply on our daily experiences and the way we perceive them. The life that God unfolds before us day by day, with its challenges and uncertainties, is not merely a series of interruptions to our ideal existence. It is, in fact, the very essence of our real life. What we often perceive as our real life can sometimes be nothing more than a phantom, a construct of our imagination, built upon our desires, expectations, and timelines. This perspective can be incredibly enlightening, yet it is challenging to maintain consistently. There are undoubtedly times in our lives when it feels as though God is delaying his response to our heartfelt prayers. We pray passionately for healing from debilitating ailments, for provision in times of financial strain, and breakthroughs in our careers or relationships. Yet, amid our fervent petitions, it can seem that God is silent, leaving us to grapple with feelings of disappointment and confusion. We may start to question whether God has forgotten us, or if our prayers are going unheard in the vastness of the universe. In Letters to Malcolm, Lewis poignantly reminds us, we must lay before him what is in us, not what ought to be in us. The prayer preceding all prayers is, "May it be the real I who speaks. May it be the real thou that I speak to." This beautifully encapsulates the essence of genuine prayer, an honest and open dialogue with our Creator, where we bring our authentic selves before him, unfiltered and vulnerable. In our moments of waiting, it is vital to remember that God's delays are not a sign of his indifference or reluctance to act. Rather, they are profound opportunities for greater miracles to manifest, for deeper faith to be cultivated, and for his glory to be revealed in ways we may not yet comprehend. Just as Jesus intentionally delayed his visit to Lazarus, allowing him to pass away before performing the miraculous resurrection, God's delays in our lives often set the stage for something extraordinary that surpasses our wildest expectations. We live in a world that often prioritizes speed and immediate gratification, where patience can seem like a forgotten virtue amidst the noise of our fast-paced lives. We have become accustomed to fast food, high-speed internet, and instant results in nearly every aspect of our existence. In this environment, it is only natural that we desire things to unfold according to our schedules and plans. However, the reality is that God's timing rarely aligns with our expectations. Patience, therefore, is not simply about the act of waiting. It encompasses resilience, persistence, and unwavering faith. It invites us to maintain hope, even when situations appear bleak, and to surrender our desires to God's perfect and all-encompassing plan. In practicing patience, we learn to trust in the divine process and the greater narrative that God is weaving in our lives. It is through this waiting that we often find ourselves growing spiritually, developing a deeper understanding of His ways and His heart. As we embrace the moments of stillness and uncertainty, we become attuned to His whispers, gaining insight into His presence and purpose. Each delay can become a sacred space where our character is refined, where we learn to rely more fully on Him and less on our understanding. So, let us cultivate patience in our hearts, recognizing it as a pathway to deeper faith and understanding. Let us view waiting not as a burden, but as an invitation to connect more intimately with God, to seek His will, and to trust in His divine timing. As we navigate the complexities of life, may we hold steadfast to the belief that every moment of waiting carries with it the potential for profound transformation and divine revelation. In our patience, we find the strength to endure, the hope to believe, and the faith to trust that God is actively working all things together for our good. The Bible offers profound wisdom in James 5 verses 7 to 8, instructing us, "Be patient, then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord comes." See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. This analogy draws a powerful parallel between our lives and the diligent farmer who waits patiently for the harvest. Just as the farmer invests his time and effort into cultivating the soil, nurturing the seeds, and awaiting the fulfillment of nature's cycles, we are called to wait patiently for the realization of God's promises in our lives. Patience, therefore, is not a passive state of being. It is an active choice to trust in God's faithfulness, even when our circumstances are shrouded in uncertainty. Let's confront a fundamental truth. Patience is challenging, perhaps one of the most daunting virtues to cultivate in our lives. The reality of facing obstacles, coupled with the sting of unanswered prayers, can weigh heavily on our hearts, especially when it feels like time is slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. In such moments, doubt often starts to creep in, whispering insidious questions that challenge our faith. The temptation to take control of the situation becomes a siren song, alluring us to forge our paths rather than wait on the Lord. However, rushing God's timing rarely leads to the outcomes we desire. Instead, it often culminates in frustration and disappointment. Therefore, we must actively embrace patience as a virtue, understanding that it not only builds resilience, but also shapes our character and prepares us for the blessings that lie ahead. As articulated in Romans 5 verses 4 to 5, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. This passage beautifully illustrates the transformative power of patience. Each moment of waiting, each struggle endured, is not in vain. Rather, it serves as a vital ingredient in the recipe for our spiritual growth. Trust in God's impeccable timing, as affirmed in Romans 8 verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This promise reassures us that God is at work in every situation, weaving together the threads of our lives into a tapestry of His divine plan. The waiting period is not a waste of time. It is a sacred season of growth, refinement, and preparation for the abundant blessings that God has meticulously planned for us. Amid this waiting, we must cultivate patience, knowing that God is faithful, and His promises will be fulfilled according to His perfect timing. In the Screwtape Letters, C.S.Lewis insightfully explains that the enemy seeks to distract us from our purpose by urging us to focus solely on our immediate actions and the challenges we face, thereby creating anxiety about things beyond our control. He astutely notes, "The future is, of all things, the least like eternity. It is the most completely temporal part of time. By directing our minds toward what might happen or what we lack, we unwittingly invite anxiety into our hearts. This anxiety can only be countered with unwavering faith in God's timing and His promises. The Scriptures guide us, urging us to let patience have its perfect work, knowing that each moment spent in waiting can yield profound blessings. Just as the farmer trusts in the changing seasons, we too must learn to trust in the divine rhythm of life orchestrated by our loving Creator. Each day we spend in patience brings us closer to the fulfillment of God's promises, reminding us that His plans for us are not only good, but are designed to bring us hope and a future. Patience is not simply a passive state, nor is it just the act of waiting in stillness. It is a force, a deeply spiritual discipline cultivated in the often lonely, frustrating, and uncertain waiting rooms of life. Patience requires more than just sitting idly by, hoping for change. It demands faith, trust, and an unshakable belief that beneath the surface, in realms you cannot yet see, significant transformations are unfolding. These changes are often invisible to the naked eye, but they are no less real. Imagine the way roots grow beneath the earth, unseen but spreading, anchoring, and strengthening the plant that will eventually bloom. Similarly, your patience is working within you, stretching your soul, fortifying your spirit, and exercising those inner muscles that will make you stronger, more resilient, and ready for what lies ahead. It's essential to understand that during these waiting periods, these periods that can feel like an eternity, your character is being refined. You are not simply marking time. You are being shaped, molded, and prepared for something far greater than you can presently comprehend. It is in the waiting that you are taught to trust beyond what is visible, to hope beyond what is tangible, and to believe in the possibilities that exist beyond your current circumstances. Patience is not a passive trait, but a powerful, active process of spiritual growth. When you exercise patience, you are cultivating resilience, fortitude, and a deeper, more profound understanding of life and yourself. This inner transformation is quiet but significant, like the slow, steady sculpting of a stone into a masterpiece. And yet, it's so easy to become discouraged when things aren't happening according to our timelines. We live in a world that is constantly pushing for more success, more progress, more achievement. And it's hard not to feel inadequate when life isn't moving forward in the way we had hoped. The waiting can be painful, even agonizing, especially when we can't see the end in sight. But remember this: patience is a gift that stretches us, teaches us to endure, and most importantly, deepens our connection to something greater than ourselves. Do not allow frustration or disillusionment to take root in your heart when things seem stagnant, or when progress appears slow or even non-existent. Often, the longer the wait, the more incredible the blessings that are being prepared for you. And when the time comes, when God deems you ready, the fruits of your patience will be more glorious than anything you could have imagined. It will feel like the culmination of all your hopes and dreams, wrapped in the beauty of divine timing. It's natural to feel restless when life doesn't seem to be moving at the pace we desire. We all carry dreams in our hearts, hopes we long to see fulfilled, goals we strive to achieve, and relationships we yearn to nurture. When the waiting drags on, when the path forward seems unclear or even blocked, it's easy to become disheartened, to question our purpose or even our worth. Why hasn't this happened yet? What am I doing wrong? Has God forgotten about me? These questions can echo in our minds, filling us with doubt, and anxiety. But know this: delays are not denials. They are often divine detours designed to prepare us for the extraordinary. You may think you're ready for what you've been asking for, but only God can see the full picture. Only He knows what you still need to learn and what areas of your life still need to be strengthened or refined. While you may believe you're prepared, if you could see the grander scope of God's plan for your life, you would understand that more time is necessary. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're destined for something far beyond your current comprehension. Each moment of waiting is a moment of preparation. It's a sacred time where you are being shaped, matured, and refined for the blessings that are yet to come. Reflect for a moment on the story of Abraham and Sarah, a story that has inspired countless generations. In Genesis 21, God promises Abraham that he will be the father of many nations. Yet for years, that promise seemed out of reach. Abraham and Sarah had grown old. Abraham was 100 and Sarah was 90 when their son, Isaac, was finally born. Imagine the years of waiting, of hoping, of believing against all odds that God's promise would be fulfilled. And yet, their waiting was not in vain. It wasn't because God was slow or unwilling to act. The delay was necessary because Abraham and Sarah had to reach a point of complete and utter reliance on God. They had to trust in His timing, even when it seemed impossible. God's promises were fulfilled not when they wanted, but when the time was perfect, when they were ready to fully receive and appreciate the blessing that was Isaac. If you're still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment on number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Abraham and Sarah's story reminds us that God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. They waited nearly a lifetime for their promise to come true, but when it did, it was beyond anything they could have envisioned. Sometimes we have to endure long stretches of waiting, not because God is withholding, but because He is preparing us to handle the magnitude of what He is about to give. There is a deep sense of purpose in the waiting, even when we can't see it in the moment. The waiting is not wasted time. It is sacred. It is in these moments that we learn to surrender our timelines, our agendas, and our plans, trusting that God's plan is far better, far bigger, and far more beautiful than anything we could design for ourselves. God's timing is intricately woven with our readiness. If He gave us what we asked for too soon, we might not appreciate it, or worse, we might not be able to handle it. Patience allows us to grow into the people we need to become to receive His blessings fully. It teaches us to trust the process, to rely on faith even when the future is uncertain, and to find peace in the present moment, knowing that every delay serves a divine purpose. The blessings that come after a long period of waiting are often the ones that transform us the most. They are the blessings that we savor because we've fought for them, prayed for them, and waited with expectant hearts for them. So if you find yourself in a season of waiting, do not lose hope. Do not allow frustration, disappointment, or impatience to cloud your heart. Instead, lean into the waiting, allow it to teach you, to grow you, to deepen your relationship with God. Trust that the waiting is not a punishment, but a preparation for something far greater than you can imagine. When the time comes, and it will come, the blessings will arrive in a way that leaves you in awe of God's perfect timing, and you will realize that every moment of waiting was worth it. You will look back on this season and see how it shaped you, how it strengthened you, and how it prepared you for the incredible journey ahead. The waiting may be long, and it may be hard, but it is never without purpose. The longer the wait, the greater the blessings. When your time comes, when the doors finally open, you will walk into a future that far exceeds your wildest dreams. And in that moment, you will know that every second of waiting was preparing you for the fullness of God's promise. Trust in the process, trust in His timing, and know that the best is yet to come. In our own lives, we often find ourselves desperately awaiting God's intervention, praying with all our hearts for breakthroughs, whether it be for healing, provision, reconciliation, or simply a sign of His presence. It is in these moments of fervent prayer that we also find ourselves confronted with one of life's most challenging spiritual lessons: trusting in God's timing. When His timing doesn't align with our own, it's easy to feel a wave of impatience, anxiety, or even doubt. We may wonder, does God hear my prayers? Why isn't He acting? Will He intervene on my behalf? These questions can weigh heavily on our hearts, especially when the wait stretches on longer than we anticipated. But here is a truth that we must remember. Waiting is not a sign of abandonment or neglect, but rather a sacred period of preparation, refinement, and growth. Just as Abraham and Sarah faced a prolonged season of waiting, filled with challenges, doubts, and what must have felt like insurmountable obstacles, God used that time to mold them, to shape their faith, and to prepare them for the fulfillment of His promise. Their story reminds us that waiting is not passive. It's active, filled with purpose. It's in the waiting that God works on us, preparing our hearts, our minds, and our souls for the blessings He has planned. Imagine if Abraham and Sarah had received Isaac at the moment they first desired it. Would they have been ready? Would their faith have been as strong? Would they have fully understood and cherished the magnitude of God's promise? God knew the right time, the perfect time, and He knows the right time for you as well. So, my dear friends, let us root our hearts deeply in trust. Trust that God is faithful to His word, that He hears every prayer, and that He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail of our lives according to His perfect plan. Even when we can't see it, even when the silence feels deafening, God is moving. Wait with anticipation, not in despair, but with the firm belief that when the time is right, God will fulfill what He has promised. His word never returns void. As we navigate these seasons of waiting, let us cultivate a mindset of gratitude, praise, and worship. Why? Because God is good. His sovereignty reigns over every situation, and His love for us is unwavering, even in the delays. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 offers us a profound and grounding truth. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. This verse is not just a call to trust. It's a call to surrender, surrendering our timelines, our desires, and our limited understanding to the One who sees the whole picture. It's an invitation to place our absolute trust in God's sovereignty, His wisdom, and His faithfulness. When we lean on our understanding, we find ourselves overwhelmed by uncertainty, doubt, and fear. But when we submit fully to God's plan, acknowledging that His ways are higher than our own, we discover peace, a peace that transcends the wait. Even in moments when the situation seems bleak, when our circumstances look like they are unraveling, our faith must persist. Faith is not about seeing immediate results. It's about trusting God's timing even when the answers are delayed. It's about believing that God's timing, though different from our own, is always superior, always perfect. And herein lies the heart of the matter. Discovering tranquility in God's timing. C.S.Lewis, in the Screwtape Letters, offers us this insight. Men are not angered by mere misfortune, but by misfortunes conceived as injuries. And the sense of injury depends on the feeling that a legitimate claim has been denied. The more claims on life that you can be induced to make, the more often he will feel injured and, as a result, ill-tempered. For his mind could be directed to the present sphere of humility and quietness. Once he accepts this, he will find tranquility and a sense of peace. What a powerful truth. Often, it is not the waiting itself that disturbs us, but the feeling that we are entitled to something immediately, that somehow we have been denied what is rightfully ours. But the moment we release these feelings of entitlement, the moment we stop seeing delays as denials or injuries, we open our hearts to humility. In that humility, we find peace. We must embrace the present moment, trusting that God is in control and that His timing is better than anything we could ever conceive. In our humility, we learn to release our grip on the future, allowing God to take control. And in doing so, we find tranquility. We find peace in knowing that God's plan is not only better than ours, but infinitely more beautiful. So, my dear friends, in this season of waiting, let us shift our focus. Let us stop fixating on the when and instead focus on the who, the God who holds our lives in His hands, the God who knows the end from the beginning, the God who is faithful to complete the good work He started in each of us. Our waiting is not in vain. It is in these moments of waiting that God draws us closer to Him, strengthens our faith, and prepares us for the blessings that are to come. And when the time is right, when we have been shaped, refined, and prepared, He will fulfill His promises in ways that will leave us in awe of His goodness and grace. Hold fast to this truth. God is never late. He's always on time. And when His promises unfold in your life, they will be more than worth the wait. Until that day comes, trust in His timing, rest in His peace, and allow your faith to grow stronger with each passing day. The blessings are coming, and when they do, they will exceed your wildest expectations. Psalm 46 verse 10 urges us to be still and know that I am God. In the simplicity of these words lies a profound call to stillness. A stillness not just of body, but of heart and mind. In a world constantly buzzing with distractions, demands, and deadlines, it can feel almost impossible to pause, to silence the noise within and around us. Yet, it is precisely in these moments of quiet, when we cease striving and rest in God's presence, that we come to truly know Him. In this sacred stillness, we discover a peace that transcends understanding, a peace that settles deep into our souls, guarding our hearts against the storms of fear, worry, and doubt. This peace isn't merely the absence of chaos. It's the presence of God Himself, reassuring us of His supreme dominion over all things. Learning to find serenity in God's timing requires more than just patience. It is an intentional shift in how we view waiting. Too often, we see waiting as wasted time, as moments of stagnation, frustration, or missed opportunities. But what if waiting is not about what we are losing, but what we are gaining? What if waiting is a crucial part of the journey, a divine invitation to draw nearer to God, to reflect, and to deepen our trust in Him? The truth is that God does some of His most transformative work in us during the waiting seasons of our lives. It is in these pauses, these in-between moments, that He shapes our character, strengthens our faith, and prepares us for what is to come. To find tranquility in God's timing is to surrender our need for control, to let go of our compulsion to rush the process, and to trust fully in His perfect plan. Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7 offers comforting words for the anxious heart. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This passage is not just an instruction. It is a promise. It reveals a truth that runs counter to our human instincts. True peace does not come from having all the answers or from being in control of every aspect of our lives. Rather, true peace arises when we choose to surrender our worries, fears, and anxieties to God. When we bring our concerns to Him in prayer, offering our petitions with thanksgiving, we open ourselves up to receive the peace that only He can give, a peace that transcends understanding, that quiets our restless minds and guards our hearts with His love. In a world filled with turbulence, uncertainty, and unpredictability, it is natural to struggle with God's timing. We live in an age of immediacy, where waiting feels like an inconvenience, and patience is often seen as a weakness. The temptation to worry, to doubt, or to try and take control of ourselves is strong. Yet, as Christians, we are called to a different kind of waiting, one that is marked by trust and surrender. Genuine peace comes not from manipulating circumstances to fit our desires, but from releasing our anxieties to God, trusting that He is orchestrating every detail of our lives for our good. As we wait, our faith is not stagnant, it is being strengthened. Waiting is not a passive act. It is an active choice to trust in God's faithfulness, even when we cannot see the outcome. In this process, our hearts are being prepared to receive the blessings God has in store for us. Every moment of waiting is an opportunity for growth, for reflection, and for deepening our relationship with God. It is a time to cultivate a spirit of gratitude, recognize His goodness amid uncertainty, and worship Him for His sovereignty. C.S.Lewis, in Mere Christianity, beautifully illustrates this process of transformation with the analogy of a house undergoing renovation. He writes, "Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps you can understand what He is doing. He is getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof, and so on. You knew that those jobs needed doing, and so you were not surprised. But presently, He starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably and does not seem to make sense. What on earth is He up to?" Lewis continues, "The explanation is that He is building quite a different house from the one you thought of, throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but He is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it Himself." This analogy serves as a powerful reminder that while we may understand some of the changes God is making in our lives, repairing broken areas or addressing obvious flaws, there is often a deeper work taking place that goes beyond our immediate comprehension. We may feel discomfort, confusion, or even pain as God knocks about the areas of our lives that we thought were secure. But trust in His supreme dominion means believing that He is building something far greater than we can imagine. His vision for our lives is not just to make us functional. He is shaping us into something magnificent, preparing us to be vessels of His glory. Finding peace in God's timing is not a passive act of resignation. It is a dynamic act of faith. It requires us to actively surrender our need for control, to choose trust over fear, and to embrace the journey of transformation God is leading us through. As we wait, let us remember that we are not waiting alone. God is with us in every step, in every delay, in every unanswered prayer. He is working all things together for our good, even when we cannot see it. And when the time is right, when His plan unfolds, it will be more beautiful and more perfect than anything we could have orchestrated ourselves. So, as you journey through seasons of waiting, hold fast to the promises of God. Know that His timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. Surrender your worries, your timelines, and your desires to Him, and trust that He is in control. Find comfort in the assurance that while you wait, God's peace will guard your heart and mind, drawing you closer to Him. And remember, the waiting is not wasted. It is a time of preparation, a time of growth, and a time of transformation. But presently, He starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably and does not seem to make sense. What on earth is He up to? These powerful words from C.S.Lewis capture a truth that many of us feel deeply during times of change and upheaval in our lives. We often have plans and expectations for how things should unfold. We imagine ourselves being made into a decent little cottage, comfortable, safe, and predictable. But God has something far greater in mind. As Lewis explains, He is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were going to be made into a decent little cottage, but He is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it Himself. These words remind us that God's plans for us often exceed anything we could ever imagine. His vision is far grander, and His purpose is far more profound than our limited perspective allows us to see. This truth is reflected in Proverbs 19, verse 21. Which clarifies that while we may have many plans swirling around in our minds, it is ultimately God's purpose that will prevail. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Our desires, ambitions, and carefully constructed plans may seem perfect to us, but God, in His infinite wisdom, knows what is truly best for us. He knows the path that will lead to our ultimate fulfillment, even if it means detours, delays, or drastic changes in our lives that we might not understand at the moment. During times of waiting, uncertainty, or hardship, it's natural to question God's dominion and the direction of our lives. We may wonder why certain events are unfolding the way they are, or why our heartfelt prayers seem to go unanswered. Our human nature craves clarity and control, and when life veers off course, it can be difficult to trust that God is still in control. However, in these moments, it's crucial to remember that God's ways and thoughts are infinitely higher and wiser than our own. His vision stretches far beyond our immediate circumstances. While we may not always understand His plans, we can rest assured that He is orchestrating everything for our ultimate benefit, growth, and good. If you're still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Trusting in God's supreme dominion means surrendering our need for control and embracing the certainty that His timing is perfect. It requires a profound faith that He is not only aware of our struggles, but is actively working behind the scenes to weave all things together for a greater purpose. As Psalm 103 verse 19 powerfully reminds us, the Lord has established His throne in heaven, and His kingdom rules over all. This verse offers us a clear picture of God's sovereignty. He is not just passively watching over creation. He is ruling over it with authority, wisdom, and love. Even when circumstances seem beyond our control, God's dominion remains unshaken. He sees the end from the beginning, and His plans are always working towards the ultimate good, even when they are beyond our comprehension. In moments of frustration and doubt, it's helpful to remember Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Though God's timing may not always align with ours, His timing is always flawless. This verse reassures us that even when we don't understand the reasons behind life's delays or detours, God is carefully crafting something beautiful out of our waiting. The beauty may not always be immediately visible, but it is being created with perfect precision. Impatience is a natural response when we feel like life is at a standstill. We may grow weary, anxious, or discouraged, especially when we've been holding on to promises for what feels like an eternity. Yet, it is in these moments of waiting that God is often doing his deepest work. He is not just preparing the blessing for us. He is preparing us for the blessing. He is refining our character, teaching us patience, and growing our faith so that when the fulfillment comes, we are ready to receive it fully and appreciate its depth. Romans 8 verse 28 offers a beautiful promise of God's faithfulness. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. This verse does not mean that everything we go through will be easy or that life will always go according to our plans. What it does mean is that no matter what challenges or obstacles we face, God is working them together for our good. He is weaving every tear, every struggle, and every trial into a larger tapestry of grace that will ultimately lead to our benefit. Trusting in God's supreme dominion involves surrendering not only our desires, but also our fears. It requires us to give over our worries, plans, and timelines to him, believing wholeheartedly that he is in control. This is not always easy, especially in a world that values control, predictability, and immediate results. But when we let go and allow God to direct our paths, we find a peace that surpasses all understanding. We begin to see that even in the darkest moments, God is working for our good, guiding us through the storm and into the light. As you journey through seasons of uncertainty, remember to pause and be still. Psalm 46 verse 10 invites us to be still and know that I am God. In this stillness, we find the strength to trust in God's sovereignty. We may not always understand the why or the when, but we can rest in the assurance that God's plans for us are always good, always loving, and always perfect. Take time to listen to the whispers of your heart. In the stillness, you will hear God saying, I see your pain, I hear your cries. Trust in me, for I am with you. Hold on, your dawn is coming. Your patience will lead to victory, and your faith will guide you through. I know you are tired, but I believe in your strength. Keep going. You are never alone. So, my dear friend, may you find strength and peace as you face life's challenges. Remember that you are not walking this journey alone. God is with you, guiding you, molding you, and preparing you for the blessings he has in store. His timing is perfect, and his love for you is unchanging. In every moment of uncertainty, cling to his promises, for he is faithful. Trust in his supreme dominion, and you will find the strength to keep moving forward, knowing that God is always working for your good. As we come to the close of this message, take a moment to reflect on everything we've shared. What resonated with you the most? What have you learned so far about trusting in God's timing and his supreme dominion over your life? Now, think about one thing you've learned and how you can bring it into practice in your journey. Whether it's surrendering control, finding peace in the waiting, or trusting that God is working all things together for your good, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment below and share with us one takeaway from this message that you'll apply to your life. Let's continue this conversation and encourage one another in faith. If you like this video, please leave your comment below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Stay blessed.